Hello, everybody. Welcome along to Sportsbet TV with me, Paul Alster here, looking ahead to the first 2 days of the Ebor Festival coming up on Wednesday, the 18th and Thursday, the 19th of August. The first of four tremendous days on the Knavesmire, one of my very favourite meetings of the year, one of my local tracks. And I've been putting in the hours, and hopefully we'll have a few very interesting contenders at big prices across the first 2 days. So much to look forward to. It is, of course, ultra competitive at York. It is a hard place to find winners, but that's what I'm here for, to guide you through and hopefully point you in the direction of a few that are going to go really well at proper prices. Now, last weekend was not one of my finest hours. We had one non-runner and three did run, although they didn't run very fast on this occasion, I'm afraid. The only one that was, I suppose, a bit unlucky, maybe not unlucky, but Lampang, who was a big gamble. So many of the horses I'm tipping are being backed down through all sorts of odds. And Lampang was a major market mover. Turned out he was drawn on the wrong side of the track, even though at Ripon in the previous race, the consolation race, the places were spread right across the course, and I had no worries at that point. But as it turned out, in the Great St Wilfrid itself, amazingly, the first four home were drawn 17, 18, 19 and 20 on the stand side. So that was one of those things that you just can't legislate for. The other two just didn't run very well, which was disappointing. On the other hand, over at freebets.com, where I have been offering my views on horses more to the fore of the market, it was another very good weekend. And remember that if you want to take a look and maybe consider my thoughts on horses that are shorter in the market, that's the place to look. Freebets.com, already quite a lot of people are following me there, and it's been doing very nicely. But of course, over the last year or so, we've been doing great here on this service as well. And I'm going to move straight on to my first selection on Wednesday, the opening day at the Ebor Festival. And the first race I'm interested in is the Group 2 Great Voltigeur Stakes. This is at 3 o'clock at York on Wednesday, over 1.5 miles. 8 runners declared. It's a race that is very much a trial in so many ways for the St Leger coming up at Doncaster next month. Now, this year's renewal of the 8 runners, there are 2 for Charlie Appleby, who's been carrying all before him this season, and Aidan O'Brien has 3, so 2 very powerful yards locking horns here. Now, the favourite is Kamani for Charlie Appleby. Now, this one won the Queen's Vase over 1.75 miles at Ascot, so we know it'll stay, but it's never run on ground any worse than good. The forecast is good, but there is a little bit of rain about, and it could maybe just ease a touch to maybe good to soft in places on Wednesday. We'll see. But the Appleby horse certainly has a sound chance, but it has been notably uneasy in the market at the time of this recording, Tuesday afternoon. I note it has drifted out to 11-4 from early 2-1. So the vibe just isn't quite as good as you'd like to see for that one. Now, Charlie Appleby also runs Ebor. Now, Ebor was only beaten half a length in that very good race at Sandown in April, won by Alster, who, of course, has gone on to do very well. But the second horse has done rather well, too. That was Adair, who won the Derby and the King George, and he is a superstar, isn't he? Well, Ebor went on to win the 1.5 furlong Bahrain Trophy at Newmarket. And he's an interesting horse, but he just doesn't appear to have quite the class, I don't think, for this. So I'm overlooking the 2 Godolphin runners. Now, Andrew Balding has Youth Spirit, who, of course, won the Chester Vase in May before finishing 8th in the Derby, then was 4th in the Gordon Stakes last time out. I think he needs to improve on that if he's going to take a hand. And 3rd in that race at Goodwood, the Gordon Stakes, was 3rd Realm, who actually beat the subsequent Derby winner, Adair, in the Lingfield Derby trial before finishing a very creditable 5th in the Derby itself. Now, he's a horse that I have some respect for, 3rd Realm, and I could see him going very well. So the clue is that I'm interested in one of Aidan O'Brien's here. He's got 3 in the race. They're all useful, of course. The first, the Mediterranean, let's talk about that one first. Fourth in the Grand Prix de Paris last time out to Hurricane Lane. Now, that is a very, very good form. He had been fourth to Alenquer in the King Edward VII Stakes at Royal Ascot in the very heavy ground. But again, I'm just not sure about him. I think he is probably the third string of the three, although you just never know with Aidens, as we know. Now, Frankie Dettori is on Sir Lucan, who was a really decent 2-year-old. He beat Wordsworth at Navan on enlisted company in May, then was beaten half a length in that Gordon Stakes that keeps cropping up in this form. I'm just not convinced that the overall form of that Goodwood race is quite good enough. And because of that, I really do think that Aiden's apparent first string with Ryan Moore on board is high definition. 4 Aidan O'Brien with Ryan Moore, a horse who was such a good 2-year-old. He won both starts, including that excellent Group 2 win in the Beresford Stakes in Ireland at the Curragh over a mile last September. Now, he had a slight setback started this season and he was a little bit backward, and they said he was only 80-90% tops fit when he finished third in the Dante Stakes to Hurricane Lane. He was only beaten 2 lengths to a horse that has subsequently gone on to prove himself at least the equal of his illustrious stable companion, the Derby winner. Gone on to win the Irish Derby, and he is very, very good. So that 2 lengths defeat, which at the time appeared to be really disappointing and not fully fit high definition, now looks a marvellous run. He was favourite for the Irish Derby after that, and it all went wrong. He just never got going. He clipped heels early on and stumbled. The horse was out of kilter after that, and he was eased down from a long way out. Clearly wasn't himself that day and has been given time to get over it. Now, they still hold high definition in very high regard. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And they've been getting him ready, and I think this could be his day. He is a horse with a lot of class. And whilst Aiden's record in this race isn't the greatest, he's won it enough times to suggest that he knows what he needs for this race. And at 4-1, I think he's a solid win bet in the Great Voltigeur at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, and that is offered with Bet365 and Unibet. The rest have already gone to 7-2, but I think high definition will take all the beating in the Great Voltigeur. Now I have 2 others for you on Wednesday. The first at York, of course, in the 4:10. This is a red-hot 2-mile handicap, the Sky Bet handicap. There are 17 runners. Plenty of our old favourites back to do battle again. The favourite is the Irish Raider Arcadian Sunrise for John Quealy. And this one won a hot handicap hurdle over 2 miles at the Galway Festival last time out and has to be respected. Mick Easterby's Elysium Flame has been knocking on the door all season. He's going to win a good handicap at some point, this horse. Scaramanga, he's fascinating for Paul Nicholls. Won last time out in good style. I think it was down at Newbury. And don't rule out Bodyline, Sir Mark Prescott's horse. Even though Sir Mark has been relatively quiet this season, this Bodyline is a horse that's quite decent on his day. And one that I very nearly considered as the selection is Island Brave for Heather Main, who had a 125-1 winner last weekend. This horse is rock solid at the 2-mile trip, and he's sure to be there or thereabouts. But coming to the point here, my choice is one of the oldest horses, if not the oldest in the field. It is the 9-year-old Nicholas T, trained by Jim Goldie, Jolly Jim, who's always got a smile on his lips. And Ben Robinson rides this horse, who's had 67 career starts. He's won 11 and been placed 16 times. He's a wonderful servant to Goldie, who just has this knack of keeping his horses on the go, doing great things through all sorts of ages. Yukon Glen, of course, this season has done great. Sir Chauvelin in the past, and plenty of others. And Nicholas T has been a stable standard bearer. He's had a lot of wins between a mile and a mile and a half. He's won 10 times between those 2 trips. So it was fascinating to see them trying him over 2 miles in June for the very first time at the age of 9. And what do you know? They decided to throw him in the Northumberland Plate. And if you were watching the race, 3 furlongs out, he was just about last in the Northumberland Plate. They were obviously riding him to see if he would stay the 2 miles. Well, I'll tell you something, he didn't half stay because he came home like a train. He flew past a lot of them and he got up to beat Hockfeld, Island Brave and Radzinski to win in spectacular fashion. Now, that says to me that this horse certainly stays 2 miles and probably he's been running over the wrong trip maybe for much of his career. So that was a great effort, having previously won at York, goes at this track over 1.5 miles. So he has a turn of 40 stays. He's clearly in great heart. And the biggest surprise of all to me is that having won the Northumberland Plate, he's only gone up £3. And I think that he's entitled to go very well. This horse is 1 from 1 over 2 miles. And he won one of the biggest 2-mile handicaps of the year. He's only £3 higher. So I'm amazed, to be honest, to see that he's offered at 22 to 1 each way for 5 places with Bet Victor and Unibet at the time of this recording. Now, of course, as always, I say to you, shop around, and by the time you view this, the market may have moved. He may be bigger, so obviously take the bigger odds, or try and get on with a bookmaker that'll offer you the SP if it's bigger than the price you take. But I just don't understand how a horse who's 1 from 1 at the trip clearly has a turn of foot that he can apply over this staying trip, how he's 22 to 1. Well, I'm glad he is, because I'm having some of it. And that's Nicholas T each way for at least 5 places at York in the 4:10 on Wednesday. And for my final selection on Wednesday in the 5:20, a fiendishly difficult race. It's a 6 furlong nursery handicap, which are always very difficult because you just don't know with these 2-year-olds who's progressing fastest. We only know a little bit about them all. They've only had a few runs, 2, 3, maybe 4 runs or whatever. Now, Bosch is one we know a bit about. He was second in that Nace Sales race last time out for Richard Hannon. And he's priced up as a pretty solid 9 to 2 favourite. And that's fair enough. Mark Johnston has a couple of very likely sorts. I'm a Gambler, who's on a hat-trick. Won just a few days ago his second run at Catterick, I think it was, and he's picked up a penalty. And Mark Johnston, the Midland Maestro, also has Jad Larn, who was second in a very hot Goodwood Nursery at the Glorious meeting in July. So those are just some that could go pretty well here. But I like the look of a horse called Flaming Rib. Trained by Tom Dascombe and the mount of the very capable young apprentice Pierre-Louis Jamin. Now, this horse is by Ribchester, as his name suggests. He was a 35,000 guineas purchase, and he's out of a German dam who was pretty useful and from a good family. Now, he's had quite a few runs already, a Flaming Rib. I think he's had 6 runs. He won a Nottingham 5 furlong novice stakes on his second start. And he then went on to be second to the very useful Oscular at Epsom in the Woodcote Stakes at the Epsom meeting over 6 furlongs. And Oscular has gone on to win a Group 3 at Deauville recently to really frank that form. Now, he didn't make any show at Royal Ascot in the Windsor Castle Stakes. He was disappointing then, but some horses just don't take to the big occasions, and for whatever reason, I also think the drop back to 5 furlongs probably didn't suit him. But then he went to Ascot, and in a really good nursery, he was only beaten half a length into third off a mark of 90 back at 6 furlongs. And then last time out, he showed a cracking turn of foot to win a nursery at Thirsk over 6 furlongs. It was on fairly quick ground, but he can handle a sound surface and a little bit of cut. And he was giving the runner-up there £12 when he came and got it and won by a short head. He's gone up £3, but Pierre-Louis Jamin claims the 5. And I'd be expecting Flaming Rib to go really well here. Granted, of course, luck in running, especially in nurseries, these young horses can run about a bit off a straight line due to inexperience. So you need that bit of luck. But Flaming Rib, 14 to 1 each way, and that should be for a minimum of 5 places. Most of them Sky Bet, and they're sponsoring plenty of races at York this week, so all credit to them. Sky Bet offers 6 places at the 14 to 1 for Flaming Rib, and that'll do for me. Flaming Rib each way, 14s at York in the 5:20 on Wednesday. So that's my first 3. I'm going to move straight on and take you to York on Thursday, where we're hoping ground conditions won't have changed too much. Now, one of the bugbears of this flat season for me has been the fact that the weather has been so up and down, and the ground's so inconsistent that when you're putting horses up on a Tuesday, as I am for Thursday, there's been so many occasions I've put them up expecting good ground and it's gone soft, or soft ground and it's dried out. But we're hoping that we just get a run of decent weather and fairly consistent ground, and that's all we ask for to give us a sporting chance. So I'm hoping that by Thursday at York, it won't be any worse than good to soft. And my first choice is in the 3 o'clock at York on Thursday, which is a mile handicap, 100,000 quid up for grabs and 20 runners. The advance going is good, but as I say, there could be some rain. Now, loads of old favourites that we've spoken about a few times this season, including May Danny, who was a cracking winner of the Golden Mile at Goodwood last time out for Mark Johnston. He's £8 higher here, but this horse is very useful on his day when things go his way. Interesting to see if he proves just as effective at York on a much flatter track. La Trinidad is trained by Roger Fell. He loves this track, does La Trinidad. He's won over a mile and 9 furlongs in his last 2 starts at York. And as we know, York handicaps are always so competitive. He's gone up a total of £12, but it is not inconceivable that he's still keeping pace, if not a step ahead of the handicapper. And then we've got Astro King for Sir Michael Stout, who was joint favourite for the John Smith's Cup over a mile and a quarter last month. He only finished 12th there, but ignore that. He finished lame, so he had a genuine excuse. He'd previously been second to the blot on the handicap, Real World, in the Royal Hunt Cup, and that was a fabulous run to be second to that horse who could be a Group 1 class performer, and he's gone up £4. So I think Astro King could be the biggest danger to the horse that I'm putting up as my selection here. This is a horse that also ran in the John Smith's Cup last time out, and his name is Ascension. He's trained by Roger Varian, the excellent Roger Varian, and is the mount of Andrea Atzeni. Now, if there is any rain, then it certainly will, every drop will suit Ascension, who goes perfectly well on good ground. But if there is some give, it really does help this huge, big, powerful grey. And if you get to see this horse on your television set, I don't think I've seen a horse with a bigger head for a very long time. You know, we've all heard the why the long face. Well, this one's got a very long face. So hopefully if it comes to a photo finish, his big head might just help us out here. He's a really big horse, Ascension. He won at Newbury over a mile in May on good to soft ground, and he won showing a really smart turn of foot for a big horse. He won by 2 lengths there off a mark of 95. Then he was 14th in the Royal Hunt Cup, but that was on good to firm ground, and that wouldn't have suited him ideally if that was off a mark of 100. And then he went to York last time out in the John Smith's Cup. That good old Astro King went lame in, unfortunately. And if you watch the race and look at it 2 furlongs out, over the mile and a quarter, he was absolutely cantering this Ascension. And I'm watching this thinking, this thing's going to absolutely hose in. He's going to win as you like. But he didn't get home. He just didn't stay. And so I think the drop back to the mile on no worse than good ground here is really going to suit him. He's also been dropped a pound since his last run, and significantly he's drawn 5, which is a good draw on this round track. And if he's able to take a handy position in the first sort of 7 or 8, I can see him finishing well, granted, of course, the prerequisite luck in running. Roger Varian's horses are in cracking form at the moment. They're running at a 34% winning strike rate, which is excellent. And I think that the odds on offer standout price of Bet365, they've taken an opinion and go 25 to 1 each way, Ascension, and that's good enough for me. Some of the others are 20s, 18s, 16s. Of course, the market may move around a lot before Thursday, but 25 to 1 is a good sporting bet each way, and that'll do for me for Ascension, and that'll be for at least 5 places in that 20-runner handicap. Shop around, remember. Now, the second selection at York on Thursday is in the 4:45, a really good race, the listed Galtres Stakes over a mile and a half. It's for fillies and mares only, and there are 12 set to run. Now, it's usually won by a really good filly or mare, normally from one of the top yards. Now, the best of the 3-year-olds on figures is the 104 rated Mark Johnston trained Dubai Fountain, who was a smart 2-year-old and then went and won the Cheshire Oaks at Chester at the May meeting. She also ran perfectly well in the Ribblesdale Stakes Group 2 at Royal Ascot, so you can't ignore that one's chance. Pennymore is completely unexposed for the Gosdens, a potential improver, won by a mile at Kempton, over a mile and a half, by 9 lengths, I think it was, last time out. But that was in a novice stakes. This is a big step up in class, but it's coming from John Gosden's yard, so you have to really respect it because he must think it's improved. Those are the two of the 3-year-olds that would catch my eye. Now, of the 4-year-olds, Roger Varian has Cabaletta, who's twice been placed in group company this season, in a Group 3 and a Group 2, both at Haydock. And it probably didn't stay the 1 3/4 miles in the race at Goodwood, won by the excellent Wonderful Tonight in very testing ground. So you can ignore Cabaletta's last run. So that brings me to my shortlist of the 2 Irish fillies. And those are the ones I'm focusing on. Now, the first of them is Forbearance, who's trained by Jessica Harrington. And this one won a Down Royal 1.5 mile handicap very, very easily earlier in the season and went up a stone for that. It then was stepped up to a Group 3 last time out and was a very respectable third. And I think that Forbearance is going to go really well. Now, if you've joined me on this service before, you'll know that I'm a regular broadcaster of Irish racing, presenting the racing for many of the big internet betting firms. And one horse that really, really stood out for me recently was a horse called Atta Grace. And this is my selection here, Amma Grace, I should say. Amma Grace for Dermot Weld and Oisin Murphy. Now, Dermot has won this race twice in the last 9 years. And included amongst those was a terrific filly called Search for a Song, who went on to win 2 Irish St. Ledgers Group 1s. And this is actually a full sister to Amma Grace. And the pedigree is absolutely superb for Amma Grace because she's also a half sister to the Irish, to the Champion Stakes winner Free Eagle, to Custom Cut, who won a stack of group races. And she's also a full sister to Falcon 8, who won the Chester Cup. So this filly is going to stay. She was really progressive at 3. She won twice, including a listed race over 1.25 miles. And she was second in a Group 2 to the very, very useful KN Pepper. Now, she's been lightly raced this season, just had 2 runs. I think she had a bit of a setback earlier in the campaign. And she clearly wasn't right when she reappeared at Gowran Park in May, finishing last of 7 on that occasion. But then she ran in a race at Cork recently, won by a filly who I think is going to prove to be a big star this season, and that I tipped up, called La Petite Coco. Now, La Petite Coco absolutely murdered them, showing a spectacular turn of foot. But Amma Grace, who had been towards the rear early on, and what essentially turned out to be more or less her first run of the season, because she just didn't turn up for the one when something was wrong in May, she came home really strongly, staying on. In another stride or 2, she would have been third. So clearly, she's on her way back. She represents a yard that have won this twice in the last 9 years. She's related, a full sister to a filly that won this race a couple of years ago, then went on to win the Irish St. Ledger. And I think they're using this as a stepping stone to hopefully following the same path with Amma Grace. Now, as is so often the case with racing ahead of time, there are no odds, as it turns out, at the moment, at the time of this recording, Tuesday afternoon, for the Thursday afternoon race in the Galtres Stakes. So I've got to estimate the market. I may be close or I might be miles away. But I think that Amma Grace is going to be around a 5-2 shot. And obviously that is a win bet. So I will be putting Amma Grace up for a win. If they overlook her form and go, say, with the Gosden horse or one of the other horses, the Johnson horse, and she's bigger odds and you're able to bet her at an each-way price, then that really is a bet to very, very seriously consider. But I think they will see that Dermot Weld targets this race, that she's a full sister to that horse that's won this race before. And I think 5-2 is a fair estimate of the market. We'll soon find out whether I'm barking up the wrong tree or not. That's Amma Grace at York on Thursday in the 4:45, the Galtres Stakes. And then very quickly onto my final selection for day 2 at the Ebor Festival, the 5:20, a 7 furlong Fillies Handicap, 15 runners, absolutely wide open. But once again, I'm not going to run through any of them here. I'm just going to take you to the horse I think has got a great chance. Another Irish trained filly. This is Ken Condon's Affable, trained by Ken, and the mount of Joey Sheridan, who still claims £3. Of course, Joey, who of course won a Group 1 race in France last year aboard Princess Zoe for Tony Mullins. He's a really very, very good young Irish jockey. Now, Affable's story this season, for those of you that don't know about this filly, is quite remarkable, as David Coleman used to say, quite remarkable. She ran in 3 claimers in May and June, and she didn't get claimed for about 10,000, 12,000 euros or something. So this was the one that got away, because since then, as so often happens with fillies, when they hit form, they can really improve. And she started off winning a Roscommon handicap over 7.5 furlongs off 62. Then she won a Naas handicap, dropping back to 6 furlongs, showing she's got plenty of pace. She won that off 68. Then she ran placed in 2 good races in the handicaps at Fairyhouse, and even placed in over 5 furlongs in a pretty hot handicap at the Curragh. And then last time out, she absolutely murdered them at Cork over 7 furlongs on soft ground that time. And she won with any amount in hand. I saw the race. I remember presenting it and saying, well, the handicapper's probably got her now, because she's probably improved as much as she's going to improve. But goodness me, she was a different gear, and she won as she pleased. She's gone up £10, which in normal circumstances would be enough to stop most horses, but I'm not convinced it will stop Affable. And Ken Condon has his horses going in great form, with 5 winners in the last 10 days or something like that. He also is a rare visitor to York. He doesn't send too many to York, but he sent about 7 over the last 5 years, and 2 of those have won. That's a strike rate of 29%. So with the yard having plenty of winners of late, being very selective with the horses they send to York, and in my view, with Affable capable of going very, very close indeed to defying a £10 rise in the weight, she is my selection. Once again, no prices on offer for this. Hard to know quite what odds are going to be available, but I would say that around 7 to 1 each way for at least the 4 places. They're going to bet on this one, I'm sure. Looking for your business, I think 7 to 1, if you can get any 8s or 9s or something like that, I think that'll be a really good bet. But I can see her running a massive race, Affable, and I commend her to you in the last race on Thursday, the 5:20. Now, those are my 6 selections across the first 2 days, so make of them what you will. I'm going to be back on Thursday with my selections for Friday, and of course for Saturday, which includes the fabulous Ebor Handicap, the Nunthorpe as well on Friday. Some amazing racing. So I'll be looking for lots of decent prices. So don't forget to join me. And I'll also be putting forward my selections of those horses more to the fore of the market over at freebets.com. Remember to check that out as well. We've been doing really well there since I've started offering my thoughts on those horses. But for now, from me, Paul Alster here at Sportsbet, I wish you the best of luck. Enjoy some marvellous racing at the Knavesmire, and let's keep fingers crossed that our horses here in these first 2 days at least do themselves justice. Best of luck. Bye-bye for now.